And every year there in the Big Ten East, you always have Michigan State. You're always going to have Michigan and always going to have Ohio State. So, I mean, that's tough as it is. And then you go out and have the non-conference scheduling of Auburn. Now, thank goodness you get that one at home. But I think 10, really anywhere between 8 and 10 with that type of schedule is perfectly fine. I mean, you look at these lists for sure. I mean, LSU, I know they got a tough road to look forward to. A little surprised you see. Maybe it's because their crossover game just isn't that strong with the West. You see Ohio State all the way down at 25, and I mean they're taking on Oregon.
I feel like Auburn's like the Ohio States and the Alabamas of the world. They're never going to have the toughest strength of schedule for the simple fact that they can't play themselves.
They're that good, yeah, understandable.
And so when you look at the SEC West, obviously everybody's strength of schedule gets a big boost because we play Alabama.
Yeah.
Well, Alabama can't play Alabama.
Right.
So I feel like they always get a little bit shorted on those.
Yeah, for sure. No, understandable. And you talk about Arkansas up there at number 1, and Auburn.
I think well deserved.
Yeah, for sure. But about Auburn at number 3, I know kind of keeping that theme, but like you have to take on everybody in the SEC West, and then you also have to go to Happy Valley. So,
and your crossover is with Georgia.
yeah. I mean, it's not fun at all. Not fun at all. So, I think, not trying to be a homer or anything like that.
Please be a homer.
That schedule is that's rough because you're also getting the whiteout night game at Penn State, and then like you talk about with the just loaded SEC schedule, the crossover game with Georgia. I believe are they playing that one at Georgia this year? Like, is that at Georgia?
No, that one should be at Auburn this year.
So at least you get that. Yeah, at least you get that. But
that's a Jordan Hare.
No, if I had to just pick one, especially one that could impact, you look at some of these. Is Arkansas, is Purdue at 5? Are they really going to impact the grandstanding of college football?
Well, I don't think most of the ones at the
Probably
top 10 of the SP Plus 500 or the S&P Plus 500. We're not talking about stocks. The S&P SOS ratings. I feel like a majority of the ones in the top 10 aren't going to necessarily impact college football. I just think they just play such a tough schedule. Like Indiana probably isn't going to have a huge impact. Are they a top 25 team? Sure. Are they going to have a huge impact? No. Michigan, Purdue, Georgia Tech, Nebraska, they're not impacting college football. Now, Arkansas, they're not impacting college football. Now, there are some teams on there like Penn State where I think this is pretty significant because if we're looking at a one-loss Penn State versus an undefeated, and this is a point I wanted to get to here, Cam, looking at a one-loss Penn State or an undefeated Cincinnati who comes in all the way at 79 in these ratings, I feel like that could be a pretty significant deal because with the strength of schedule, do you value the team that has the 10th toughest schedule if they only have one loss versus the team that has the 79th toughest schedule if they go undefeated? Where do you play with that? I think the other interesting spot with that becomes Clemson has the 70th ranked schedule. So if you're looking at Clemson, is their strength of schedule good enough for them to afford a loss?
Right.
No.
I mean, Cam, I feel like I'm a big strength of schedule guy. I feel like this could be a pretty big deal when you look at how soft some of these team schedules are. Like if you're Cincinnati, you have to go undefeated and hope some people in front of you lose more than one game.
Oh, yeah, definitely agree. If you're Cincinnati, you got to hope Penn State probably loses 2 to 3 games. I think even if Penn State loses 2 games against the right opponent, like Ohio State, and maybe you throw, I don't know if they're playing Wisconsin this year, but another high-ranked team in the Big. I don't see undefeated Cincinnati jumping them, just like undefeated Cincinnati couldn't jump 2-loss Iowa State last year.
Yeah.
So that's my biggest thing. So, if I had to go with the hardest schedule, it'd be Arkansas as well. I've seen their schedule, and it's pretty brutal. I'll put it like that.
I'm not going to lie. I'm looking at Nebraska at number 2, and I think they're probably the most overrated strength of schedule here. And I get all this is a formula from Bill Connelly, and he's usually pretty spot on with a lot of this. But I just want to go through Nebraska's schedule.
I was hoping you would, yeah.
They're at Illinois to start the season, and then they're home against Fordham and Buffalo. Now, Buffalo's better than a lot of people think, but it's still Buffalo. Mm-hmm. So you're at home against Fordham, and you're at home against Buffalo. Then you have to go to Oklahoma, at Michigan State. Then you're home against Northwestern and Michigan, at Minnesota versus Purdue. You have Ohio State, and then you're at Wisconsin and versus Iowa. That's a tough schedule, but I don't think that's any tougher than any team in the SEC West.
No, exactly. I would put
like number 2.
I would put Auburn over Nebraska in a heartbeat. Like I would do that in a heartbeat.
I'm putting Georgia Tech over Nebraska. Georgia Tech has to play Northern Illinois and Kennesaw State to start the season, which watch out for Kennesaw State because the last time we saw Georgia Tech play a wing team, triple option team, they lost to the Citadel. Then you go to Clemson. You're home against North Carolina. You're home against Pitt. You go to Duke, so maybe there's one of your wins for the season. Then you're at Virginia, home versus Virginia Tech, at Miami, back home versus Boston College, and then you have to go finish your season with this nice little stretch at Notre Dame and then home against Georgia.
Yeah,
I think
bad.
Off the initial polls, they play 6 top 15 teams.
Good.
Dang.
Goodness gracious.
It's like Nebraska. It's a tough schedule there, but I don't think it's that kind of murderer's row.
No, yeah, I don't think so at all. Like, yeah, I'd just going through those two. I'd probably put Nebraska down at number 4 or number 5. Yeah, no, I mean, I get you have to. I think the big puncher, I guess, with Nebraska is the fact that you have to play Oklahoma and Ohio State. But I mean, what's bigger? 2, top 5 football teams on one schedule, or 6 or 7 top 15.
Right.
Like I would obviously
it's the gauntlet. It's the gauntlet that makes it so tough.
And that's why I keep bringing up Auburn is because I mean, like they have a hell of a gauntlet from start to finish. I mean, you look at Nebraska's first, like you said, Nebraska's first 3 games. Yeah, they have a big out of conference game, but you're also taking on Fordham. Like, no disrespect to Fordham, but
well, I mean, to be fair, Auburn starts with Akron and Alabama State.
You're always going to have those, though. I mean, like, you can go. That's why, like, I get in arguments with a lot of people about, the SEC and them scheduling. It's like the SEC and Southern Conference.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Scheduling each other.
No, we have the Sun Belt.
So
the Sun Belt Challenge week.
Yeah, right, for sure. And I always rag on people for that, but it is the truth.
But just like does anybody play
3
harder road games than at Penn State, at LSU, and at Texas A&M?
And that's Auburn, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Hell no.
And then your home slate is, and this is just conference, or I'll throw Georgia State in there because Georgia State's a good football team. But then after that, it's Georgia, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Alabama.
Those could all be losses too.
Like
two top 5 teams, and maybe even higher rated than that when they play them. 2 top 5 teams, and then 2 offenses you never want to see in Ole Miss and Mississippi State.
That's what I was gonna say. Like, you think you might have a breather with Mississippi State just based off win-loss, but like, it's Mike Leach. Like, you have to play 2 of the best programs in the nation, and then also Lane Kiffin and Mike Leach. Have fun, man.
Yeah, good luck.
Goodness gracious.
I did want to take a look at Cincinnati and Clemson's schedules because I do find those fascinating because I have been a pretty big proponent of Cincinnati. If they go undefeated, they could be a top 4 team. And it's a rough schedule outside of a couple of games. I'll say they have on the road and back-to-back games, not weeks. They have a bye week in between, but they're at Indiana, who with Michael Penix should be a good team, like a nationally recognized team. Then they're at Notre Dame on October 2nd.
Yeah.
So I think they have to root for Notre Dame and Indiana both to be good. I'd say like at least 9-win teams.
I'd say with of course with Notre Dame, but I'd say with Indiana, that's actually like a lot of people might be hearing Indiana and be like, yeah, all right. But like,
no, they're a good team.
That's actually a pretty good possibility for them to be really good. And I'm a proponent for that as well. Like, I love the underdog for sure. If we were going off the past basis that the college football playoff has used for teams with big brands, then they would get in with an undefeated record.
I was going to say, this schedule doesn't look any less tough than what Notre Dame's schedule typically looks like, and that's usually good enough for Notre Dame to get in.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, look back at Washington when they got in. I mean, their schedule wasn't that great at all, but guess what? They're undefeated. So, like, why can't we say that about Cincinnati? I feel like I don't want to be a pessimist, but I feel like in 3 months we're going to be saying, man, or three and a half, man, Cincinnati's undefeated. Why are they sitting at 5? Because they don't have the pull of Notre Dame, and that's just the frustrating point.
Well, and their biggest out of conference game or in conference game, is October 16th. They're home against UCF. That one, again, you got to hope Gus Malzahn has that team probably undefeated when they come into that game, or at least a one-loss UCF team when they come into that game. So you get the national spotlight, get another stage. And if you have beat Indiana and Notre Dame at that point, which they very well might, Desmond Ritter's back.
Yeah.
Right. You have
solid team.
You have Myjai Sanders on the outside. They have some really talented guys in the secondary as well. They could very well beat Notre Dame. So if you've beaten Notre Dame and then a couple weeks later you're playing against UCF, that will be a primetime game and a national spotlight game. And so if you win that one and then go undefeated and win your conference championship, I think you have a legitimate shot at the playoff, even with the 79th ranked strength of schedule, just because of those kind of big games. Then with Clemson, then we were kind of talking about this yesterday on 3 and Out.
Oh, Clemson.
Who is this game bigger for to start the season, Georgia or Clemson? And I think it's just depending on how you look at it. If you're looking at 2021, I think it's bigger for Clemson. If you're looking at just kind of a perception and overarching myopia, it's Georgia, because Kirby Smart, I feel like, still hasn't, which is ridiculous because you beat Oklahoma and Baker Mayfield. But I feel like so many people still look at Kirby Smart and this Georgia team as you can't win that game. Like you're number 5 and there's 4 other teams that are above you and you just can't beat them. You're the 5th best team, but you're not one of those true top 4 teams, even though they were in a national championship game at the end of regulation tied.
Yeah.
Right. So but I feel like that's the national perception on Georgia. So I think the perspective wise is bigger for Georgia. For the actual 2021 value of the game, it's much bigger for Clemson.
Absolutely.
I think they could lose this game, beat everybody else by 50, and still not make the college football playoff, because they have South Carolina State, Georgia Tech, NC State, Boston College, Syracuse, Pitt, Florida State, Louisville, UConn, Wake Forest, and South Carolina. No ranked teams on there right now.
Yeah.
Outside of Georgia. Now, NC State could be. I think they're a good team. Boston College could be a struggle. Pitt should be okay. But there's no Notre Dame on the schedule this year.
Right. Even and you're not going to see them in the ACC championship game or anything like that either.
Right.
I think the only thing you could argue against it being bigger for Clemson, which I agree it is. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate a little here. I think the only way you do is you say, well, Georgia has Florida and Auburn and whatnot on the schedule, and possibly Alabama in the SEC championship game. If they lose this game, they're behind the 8 ball. But
see, I think Georgia has a golden ticket.
The rest of the year.
I think Georgia has a golden ticket, though.
I agree. Yeah.
Like, I don't think Clemson necessarily has a golden ticket.
Right.
Like Clemson, they can go undefeated if they lose to Georgia, and then play North Carolina. And you got to hope North Carolina's undefeated, which they won't be if you've seen North Carolina's schedule. But you got to hope North Carolina is a top 10 team, and then you beat the brakes off of them in the ACC championship, and then maybe you get considered. But Georgia, they have that golden ticket to where if they lose to Clemson but win out, beating Auburn, beating Florida, who is Arkansas, I think is the other crossover game, beating the SEC West, Arkansas, or SEC East, Arkansas, and Auburn, and then you go into the SEC championship game. If you only have one loss to Clemson and you beat Alabama, you're in.
That's it. You're in.
Like, Alabama is your golden ticket.
Right.
Or I would say this, the SEC championship game's your golden ticket.
Yeah, just being in there.
Right.
No, I mean, I would agree with you there. That's what I'm saying. I would agree with you there.
Like, through the college football playoff, there hasn't been an SEC champion that hasn't gone.
Right. I'm saying, like, if you were arguing for it being bigger for Georgia, I think you're someone who's not very confident in Georgia winning those big games. Like, if you're not very confident in Georgia,
I don't think anybody
beating
is.
Florida this year, or beating Auburn this year, or making it to the SEC championship game. If you believe in this Georgia team, which, I mean, I don't know, I'm someone that does. You're saying, okay, they can lose to Clemson and still make it in. So that's my thing. If you believe in them, which I do, it's much bigger for Clemson, and the math shows it there too. With Clemson being down all the way there at 70. I mean, if they lose to Georgia and they win, like, middle of the pack, or narrowly win the rest of their games, which they won't because it's the ACC. Right. It's not that great. But if they do that and they get in, let's be honest, they're getting in at that point because they're Clemson. So
It's true.
Is what it is. Unless everyone else has like 2 losses, then I get it.
Which I don't think we're going to see. I think we're going to see some teams that are really good. I think, but for example, a team like Coastal Carolina, I think they have a really good shot at going undefeated, but they also have, I think, the 130th or 129th ranked strength of schedule.
Yeah. They're going to be a team you see get up to like 6 or 7 and just kind of stall out.
Maybe. I think maybe. And like they have the advantage. Cincinnati has a big advantage here too. Cincinnati comes into the season, I believe, ranked 8th.
Yeah. Right.
And so that's huge. Whereas Coastal Carolina came in at 23rd.
Right.
So you have to, and usually, I mean, that's big because this is the first time ever I think you've had 2 Sunbelt teams ranked in the preseason top 25.
That's huge. Yeah.
That's big because usually you're fighting through 3 or 4 weeks just to get into the top 25. And then after that, it's the gauntlet of trying. If you lose, you're out, period. Sorry. But then you have to have that gauntlet where you're trying to move up every now and then. They'll kick you back down because, I don't know, Texas A&M beat Florida or something like that. So Texas A&M just went from 23 to this, right? Yeah. It's just that's how it goes. You get jumped a lot and pushed back down. They can fight. I think Coastal Carolina with their record stalls out just short of the top 10, like just because of the strength of schedule.
Yeah, I can see that and agree with that for sure.
And I think they get left out probably of a New Year's Six game because I mean they did last year.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, unless Cincinnati just completely falls off a cliff, they're going to, because Cincinnati's going to be in there. I mean, that's kind of my opinion of it. But even if Cincinnati splits with Indiana and Notre Dame or loses to both of them and then just rattles off, goes to 10-2, they'll probably still be ranked above Coastal Carolina, most likely, if Carolina drops a game or something like that.
I will say this: Alabama with the 16th ranked strength of schedule. Obviously, games against Texas A&M in the Iron Bowl, just that SEC West slate is going to be big for them. Then the out of conference, you start with Miami.
Yeah.
So I mean, a pretty strong strength of schedule there for Alabama. Georgia comes in at 47th because again, outside of, I think we talked about this, you got beginning, the end, and the halfway point, right?
Yeah.
Clemson, probably Alabama, and Florida.
Right.
Every other game, you should win handily.
Agreed.
If you're Georgia. So I think a pretty fair strength of schedule rating there. Florida comes in at 44. Again, you can go to Bill Conley's Twitter, see the full rankings there, or ESPN.com. So much more to get to on the show today. More college football talk to dive into. Braves fall to the Yankees. Got a chance to split this series tonight, though. Just a 2-game set with the Yankees. Charlie Morton on the mound, bringing on his 12-4 record. So much more to dive into here on Second Down. We'll be right back after this. Christian Gokel alongside Cam Ursery and PJ Zuko. Glad to have y'all hanging out with us here on ESPN Radio. So much more to dive into. A pretty big day in the world of college football as we are officially in game week. There will be live action on the college football field coming up this weekend. So you know what that means? On Friday, I don't care if it's Hawaii and UCLA. We're getting some picks on Friday. We're kicking off the ESPN Coastal Picks on Friday. Cam, how'd you do last year? I don't feel like you did overly well.
I did. I want to say I came second or third place.
We'll find out. I mean, I forget about everyone after me, which is everyone.
Nah, I was pretty decent last year.
Your boy came in first place last year.
Look, you got me in college football, but NFL, you know, I beat you guys in fantasy.
No one cares about NFL pick'ems.
You know, hey, I gotta bring my W in there since you bring your W.
No one cares about NFL pick'ems. It's all about the college football pick'ems. And Cam's least favorite words last year, PJ? Backdoor cover.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yes. It hurt me bad. Yeah.
Yeah, those are the worst. I mean, I've certainly had to learn how to do this whole spread thing actively.
Well, I mean, you're a Big Ten guy, so you guys struggle with the spread.
Well, now everyone runs the spread.
That's
like
fair.
Literally, not even Big Ten teams line up in the I for 'em anymore. It was a story this year when one of the Big Ten teams ended up going under center in spring practice. Like, what in the world?
What is that?
We forgot about this in the 70s. What is this? So yeah, no, it's kind of hilarious. But no, like that is a whole new thing. The spread is, like you said, just an offense before.
Is it?
You came in here and was like, hey man, guys, we're picking and we're doing the spread.
Well, it's so lame.
And I'm like,
it eliminates so many games. Like I can put Alabama and Southeastern Louisiana State on the pick'ems if we put the spread on there. I can't put that on there if we're just doing straight up.
Yeah, but I mean,
like everybody's going to pick Alabama in the Iron Bowl if it's just
my argument
Alabama Auburn.
My argument to that would be, yeah, but like, who cares about that game? Not the Iron Bowl, obviously. I'm saying, like, yeah, I don't know.
No, I care about Alabama, Southeastern Louisiana State. Cells, as I like to call it.
Sure.
So we'll have our pickups.
I'm happy you do, and I'm starting to care more too, because every one I lose, I hear more and more about it. If we're bringing up our W's, listen, 2018.
Oh man,
I mean, you are looking at the fantasy football champion, you know, from all the way back then.
Sound like Georgia fans talking about their last national championship.
What, 3? I don't know if that's
a lifetime ago, PJ.
I don't know if that's quite the
it's
same.
A lifetime ago.
I still got the trophy on my desk, so I don't know.
What have you done for me lately?
A lot.
I don't know. In terms of winning?
We do a lot for each other. Oh,
okay. In terms of winning?
Oh, my fault. I thought we were getting personal there.
No.
All right. Yeah, I don't win a lot, so it is what it is.
The people's champ right here. I think BJ probably won our March Madness bracket there. Actually, I think BJ's mom.
She did. Yeah.
Won our March Madness bracket there. So we got that going for us. But again, the alliance in college football has been formed.
Awesome, I guess.
And the way that these guys are speaking about it, again, it's the ACC, Big Ten, and Pac-12 coming together. And the way they're speaking about themselves is like, again, I said this, they're like the Avengers, and they're trying to stop Thanos, which is Greg Sankey in the SEC. It's so lame, just how they're speaking about themselves. And coming out, there have been no contract signed. It's just a gentleman's agreement between the three commissioners.
Oh, and those are the most accurate and just set in stone.
Who needs a contract when we're all friends? All right,
exactly.
No one ever is going to back out
of
a friendship agreement
in like a week,
or as soon as someone comes in with a big old check. Right. I mean, that's when you start backing out of the friendship agreements. But I wanted to read through the release here a little bit and just go through some of the things that they have agreed that they are is like-minded, and so they're trying to come together and form this power structure where they can compete and try to pull back power away from the SEC, since they've added Texas and Oklahoma and kind of created like a vacuum in terms of media attention. So here's just a few of the various issues that they're going to cover in their alignment. It says the three conferences remain competitors in every sense, but are committed to collaborating and providing thought leadership It's like leadership reps.
Yeah.
Providing thought leadership on various opportunities and challenges facing college athletics, including student athlete mental and physical health, safety, wellness, and support, strong academic experience and support, diversity, equity and inclusion, social justice, gender equality, future structure of the NCAA, federal legislative efforts, and postseason championships and future formats. Now, obviously, all of those are huge issues. The ones that affect the on the field stuff, I believe, are the future structure of the NCAA, which, I mean, that's a big 5-word sentence.
That's a big point. Do you like how they all right, we're going to load this up here and then slide this in the middle and then go on with the other stuff? That sounded like I was like, all right, that's great.
Yep.
Wait, what? And they're
no,
keep going.
This is a pretty broad spectrum, like a total inclusion spectrum. Like I said, the student academic experience and support. I mean, that's big, but the future structure of the NCAA.
I mean, that's huge. That's a bomb you drop.
Well, right now, I mean, what does that mean, the future structure of the NCAA? Because what structure does it have now? Basically, they're in charge of handing out punishments and a couple of basketball tournaments.
Yeah, very true.
Like the champion in college football right now, at least in the FBS, is not determined by the NCAA. The NCAA champion every year is the FCS champion.
Yeah, for sure.
And I guess there's 3 NCAA champions every year because you have SCS Division II and Division III.
Yeah,
are the 3 NCAA champions.
Do you think they just kind of lump that in there? Oh, and by the way,
how about federal legislative efforts or, postseason championships and future formats?
Yeah.
Because it sounds like they're not huge fans of the 12-team playoff format.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. Lumping that in there with everything else. The structure of the NCAA and those postseason tournaments, because guess what? We're 3 of the major conferences that gets votes and things on these now. And we're all going to agree on everything, and we're basically going to decide what everybody else does.
And I do think the one thing that's really getting kind of over analyzed here is the scheduling. Yeah. Because I think more so than anything, they're saying, we'll throw a couple of matchups or we'll just make it easier going forward. They've already said they're not going to cancel any future non-conference games that they already have scheduled out. So we probably won't see this really coming to fruition for at least 5 years to where this actually matters in terms of scheduling. And then they go on to say this: the Football Scheduling Alliance will feature additional attractive matchups across the 3 conferences while continuing to honor historic rivalries and the best traditions of college football. So for all the fans out there that were worried Georgia Tech, Florida State, Florida, Clemson, South Carolina, those were going away. They're not. And they never were. Those are such huge money games for the TV deals. Those were never going away. And if you have your own TV deal, if you're the ACC, Big Ten, Pac-12, if you have your own TV deal, say they sign with Fox, like the ACC, after their agreement runs with ESPN, they sign with Fox, or there's some new TV deal out there and they sign with them. That would be a home game for them every 2 years that they can add value to these TV deals. So if you say we have Florida at Florida State once every couple of years, that adds huge value. Why would they get rid of those? They're not going to.
Yeah.
They're not going to get rid of Florida State so Florida can play Stanford. Stanford, excuse me.
Right. I never thought those specifically were going to go away. You know what I mean? I never thought that specifically the rivalry games. I always thought that they would keep those. I think I was just mainly thinking about the big highlight kickstart games to start your season, or the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season that aren't those huge rivalries.
Right.
But like you said, I think there was a huge focus and maybe overreaction to the scheduling thing. But I mean, I'm guilty of it for sure. I came on the show and talked with you about it, and that was one of the bigger points that I mentioned. But it's like, when something huge like this happens, I think it's really easy to look at one thing and just kind of cling to it and worry about it. You know what I mean? Before you get to everything else. So yeah, I mean, now that they've drawn out all these points, I think, like you said, I think there are a lot of those that you can certainly support and look forward to.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of them that you look at and you're like, oh, wait, what? Like, okay, you're just going to control things now. We'll see how that works out.
Yeah, the future structure of the NCAA and postseason championships and future formats. I don't know, Cam. I look at this, and what I'm really garnering from it is we feel like we're 3 of the bigger, not biggest, but 3 of the bigger brands inside of college athletics and we're stronger together, right? I feel like the Big Ten and the Pac-12 have usually been pretty like-minded, and I guess the ACC is now forming up with them as well. I really feel like it's the three of them coming together to try to pull some of that influence back away from the SEC.
I mean, yeah, I agree. They have no choice either, though. Whether it's in football or basketball, they really have no choice in doing so. Just look what the SEC is doing. They're just stacking up their conference. I mean, bringing Oklahoma and Texas in a couple of years. I mean, for all the sports, not just football. That's huge. I mean, but we know it's for football in general, so I'm gonna stay on that. It's just huge, but I mean, like you said it last week. There's some blue bloods in the Big Ten and some of the other conferences. You got Michigan, you got Ohio State, Penn State,
Right.
and then you got Clemson and ACC and Florida State and Miami and those type of guys. So they can, get a little back push, a little backlash, like push towards the SEC. But this is their best bet. I mean, SEC runs college football. I'm gonna forever say that.
And I know people have seen the memes out there. And listen, if you watch the show, that's an even bigger.
I feel
plus.
like we got an Office reference coming.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, if you watch the show, it's even. Don't get it twisted, right? Like, if you're thinking of the alliance with the Office and all the alliances that Dwight had,
yeah,
Dwight is the Pac-12 right now. The ACC is Ryan, and the Big Ten is Jim. Like, let's not get it twisted or anything like that. Like,
all of those just went completely over my head.
The ACC is just kind of hopping on board. Dwight is like thinking he's the mastermind in the Pac-12, and the Big Ten's just like, all right, let's figure it out. Let's have some fun with this.
All right, I'm following along.
You're saying I can control everything? Okay, let's have some fun with these guys.
Yep, and it does sound like the Big Ten and the Pac-12 and the ACC are all trying to say we're trying to save college athletics because they keep saying they want to preserve the scholarly portion of athletics, and they want to preserve just college athletics as they are, and they're afraid, which I think a lot of people have been, that the SEC just jump-started this rapid change inside of college athletics away from the amateurism, or a lot of people refer to it as the shamateurism of college athletics. So interesting. I feel like the Big Ten and the Pac-12 and the ACC are all trying to fight back against that, which I guess time will tell if they're on the right or wrong side of history. But I do think it's a pretty significant thing in terms of the power structure inside of college athletics. Just a quick note here. It has been speculated during this conference that some of the conferences can go back, like the Pac-12, revert back to an 8-game conference schedule instead of a 9-game conference schedule to then accommodate for that extra game against either an ACC or a Big Ten team. So they're, I guess, I don't want to say regressing, but reverting back potentially to an 8-game conference schedule in the future, while the SEC, it looks like, is probably going to go to a 9-game conference schedule in the future with the addition of Texas and Oklahoma. Also, some reports coming out that we could see Texas and Oklahoma in the SEC as soon as next year, which I think we all kind of assumed be like living with your ex for the next 4 years if they went through 2025. I think we pretty much assumed that, but now some reports saying there's actually some weight to that we'll see Texas and Oklahoma in the SEC as early as next year. So a lot of stuff changing in the world of college football. It's game week, so we'll finally have some live action football to talk about coming up this weekend. But we got more to come here on Second Down today. We'll be right back after this. Second Down on ESPN Radio is presented to you by the Uniform Source. Christian Gokel, glad to have y'all hanging out with us here. So much more to dive into. Big show coming up today on 3 and Out. We'll be joined by Matt Smith from SouthernPigskin.com. He'll break down the Alliance some more, as will Josh Pate from the Late Kick with Josh Pate on 247. He'll break down the Alliance. We'll talk to former Georgia tight end Arthur Lynch. He's got some strong opinions on the Red Pants. He's got some even stronger opinions on that, I guess, relatively new Georgia Bulldog logo, like the Nike kind of Bulldog.
The Nike 5
I think he called it an abomination.
Huh. That's some pretty big stuff.
We'll also be joined by Rich Styles. Rich Styles at 420. But, he's Arthur Lynch, not afraid to call out the new Georgia Bulldog logo.
No, and that big too. I mean, an abomination. That's wild, man.
I think there's some purists out there. We were talking about this. Luckily, Brooks Austin came on the show yesterday and basically said the Red Pants ain't happening.
Please save us.
Because, Cam, first of all, thank goodness that the Red Pants aren't happening. According to Brooks Austin, but he said they were a internet rumor that got started. Basically, somebody started them for retweets, and maybe Buck Bellew got fooled by the internet.
Probably saw the same pictures that you did with the recruiting pictures and whatnot. Which I get it. I had like a mini heart attack the other day because I thought a Penn State player was wearing blue pants in a video, like in a practice video. But it turned out, I think they were just.
Has Penn State ever done like really anything? Because I know they put the numbers on the helmet one time, but have they ever really done?
Not really.
An alternate?
The not like a true alternate. They have the throwback jerseys now, which basically they incorporate every minor change that the team has done over the 100-year span of. So like literally every minor tiny change is on that jersey. So like I think they've worn the past 2 years at least once, and you have the numbers, which was big in like the 60s and 70s. You have the stripe, which was done for like 2 years. You have like the collar and the shoulder pad stripe, which was done for like the 90s and 2000s. But yeah, there's not a lot of big changes there, and I think it's hilarious that like Penn State's alternate jersey is literally like, hey, these are all the tiny itty bitty changes we've made over 100 years on one jersey. And basically for a common fan, if you just looked at it, you'd be like, what is it? Like, what? I've had that comment to me before. Like, these are throwback jerseys. And I'm like, yeah, if you look at that and that little thing, and they're like, oh, okay. I can see it now, I guess.
It is amazing because it's so hard, like for Georgia. And I said this with the Falcons. It's so hard to mess up red and black.
Yeah.
It's so hard, but Georgia and the Falcons have both found out really creative ways to do it.
I'd say the Power Ranger jersey
that hurts.
And helmet combination.
I thought that was better than the black helmet, black pants against Florida.
Really?
Yeah, I think the Power Rangers better than that.
The white jersey.
Yeah, you look like a middle Georgia high school team.
Yeah.
In Jacksonville.
That's a good point. You look like a high school team that's trying to be Georgia but can't be. Yeah. They kind of played like that too. So.
I think there's some high school teams that probably would have performed better in that game. that was a rough game that we're trying not to remember. But yeah, again, we can all take a deep breath. Probably not going to see the all red uniforms for Georgia, which again we talked about yesterday. Why would you? And there was a couple of factors that went into why Brooks Austin doesn't think is happening. One of the biggest ones is Clemson only wears the purple uniforms during military appreciation.
Makes sense.
So
there's no point.
Yeah. So not happening there. Could they wear the all orange? Sure, but that's not really color rush. That's just a Clemson uniform.
Right.
And then Georgia, Kirby Smart's talked about it before. Big games like this are a chance to show off your brand. Your brand is red, red, silver, or red, white, silver.
Exactly.
Not red, red, red.
And if you go by Dabo's point with the orange pants, they only really, if you look, since he's taken over, they only really wear those in postseason play, in huge, like monumental games.
Which I mean,
So,
this is pretty
not saying
pretty
it's a
damn big
small
game there,
but
PJ.
like, yeah, but it's opening up the regular season. Like,
True.
It's not quite the national championship.
What
Now,
would you do
Clemson? It might be
if
this year.
Penn
but
State in their home game against Auburn, which is the whiteout for the year,
Yeah.
ran out in like white helmet, blue top, blue pants?
I don't like that combination. So if they came out with an alternate, I wouldn't be that mad. Like, I wouldn't be like if they came out in the whiteout, and even if they just wore all white, that would be incredible. I actually, the craziest alternate, you wouldn't. Penn State started for like 5 years, but Penn State started with black and pink uniforms.
I've seen that. Like the basketball teams worn that. Yeah.
They come out with black and pink football uniforms. Shut it down.
You gotta
man.
wait until Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
Shut it down. I'd think that'd be sick. I would fully support that.
All right, PJ Zuko is on the black and pink train, so just mark it down. We got more to come. We'll come back. Final segment of Second Down next. Final segment here on Second Down. Really appreciate everybody hanging out with us today. Big show coming up on 3 and Out. We'll catch up with Matt Smith from southernpigskin.com to talk about the alliance between the ACC, Big Ten, and Pac-12. We'll also catch up at 5 o'clock with Josh Pate from 247 Sports to break it down some more. Also hear from Rich Stiles from the Back Nine Boys. Playoffs coming up in the world of golf. We'll get the latest there. Though Patrick Reed, some news coming out about him that could affect what we see going forward. So really excited to catch up with Rich. And also coming up, again, 5:20, Arthur Lynch, former Georgia tight end. Some strong opinions on some of the non-traditional stuff that Georgia's doing in the apparel game, and also breaking down Georgia and Clemson as we are real close. Seems like we've been talking about this game for years.
We're getting there.
And now I think we're, 11 days away?
Oh, yeah. We're getting there. It's right around the corner.
Who's Penn State open with, PJ?
I don't even know. No, I'm just kidding. Wisconsin. Yeah.
Oh, man, I forgot. That's right. You guys are starting right off with conference play.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one.
Get after it. Wisconsin and Auburn early in the season.
Yeah, super happy about that. Super happy about opening with Wisconsin. You know,
is it Happy Valley or are you on the road?
Pretty sure on the road. So yeah, good start to the season last year. 0-5, first game at Indiana. You know, that went smoothly. No controversial calls there. Can't wait to get after it with Wisconsin.
PJ definitely over Michael Penix hitting the pylon or fumbling out of bounds. Definitely over it. So we got more to come though. 3 and Out. BJ Bennett, Ben Troop, Kevin Thomas coming up next.